Hey everyone, my name is Robin Solnenko, aka Power Daddy from LinkedIn, and I'm a Power Automate instructor. And this is one of those videos from my Power Automate Foundations course. In this short video, we will look at how to handle errors and the scope of those errors. By default, users will not see errors, so therefore when they click on the submit button, there may be an error, but they may be totally unaware of it and assume all is okay. So by learning how to handle an error if one is created, we can send a notification to the user or users letting them know how to resubmit the form. We can also notify the owner of the workflow that there also has been errors. So thanks again for checking out these Power Automate course videos, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back everyone to this topic where we start discussing error handling and scope. And what we mean by that is, as a designer, when we have been executing these workflows through our environment, we can see when there's an error. We can get the X or the green exclamation mark or check mark, but the user does not. So what we want to do is, in the event of an error, we can have an email sent not only to us, but maybe to the user, so they know something went wrong. Because otherwise, when a workflow is executed by default, if there's a problem, only we will find out, but not the person who initiated the workflow. So that is an error handling. But the error handling is designed to work with just one error, a specific thing. If this thing errors, then do this. Whereas the scope can include a bunch of actions. And if any one of those actions or a multitude of those actions error out, you will get one email instead of 5 or 6. Okay, so let's start this by duplicating one of our flows here. This one here where we had chapter 3 apply to each. We'll go ahead and save as. And we will call it, we'll call it chapter 3 apply, we'll actually call it chapter 3 error handling, like that. Save it. Remember to turn it on once it's duplicated. There it is, turn it on and go into edit mode. Okay, so this is the one that there's no inputs. It initializes the array that we typed, and then it will spit out each one of those records in this Power Automate expense list for ourselves. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go make sure I go back to my my SharePoint and get to that list for you, and you can get there too, just to make sure. This is the which one is it? It's the Power Automate expense list. So you want to get over there. There it is. Okay, that's this one here where we enter one item and the amount. All right, so what we're going to do here is, within the apply to each action, there's the create item. So what we want to do is add an action underneath the SharePoint one. And we are going to be adding the email. So send an email. We're going to send it to in this case, the student 1, something like subject record error. And then we'll say the following record was not entered into your SharePoint site. And for the dynamic content, we should have a current item. There it is, the current item. Now, the trick to this is, so right now the way it's set up, it will, remember, this is applied to each, so it'll create an item, send an email, create an item, send an email. Well, we don't want that. We only want this to execute if there's an error in create item. So what you do is on the send an email action on the more commands over here, you want to choose configure run after. Configure run after. And you want to say has failed. So it always goes to the previous action, which is creating item. So if the create item fails at any point, then you perform this action, which is to send an email. So hit done, and that's all you have to do. Now, we know currently that there is no errors in there, so we have to go create one. So if we go back to the initialize, and I'm going to take the third one, the car rental, where it says 350.25, and I'm going to put in NA. Now, the reason why I know it's going to cause an error, because that amount field in SharePoint is numeric, so it should cause a problem. Okay, so that's all I'm going to change. Go ahead, I'm going to collapse these, I'll save it. Shouldn't get an error. Perfect, all is green, so we'll test it manually. It'll connect, perfect, continue, run flow. Okay, it's running. What's going to happen here? It ran successfully. So I'll go to my email here, and there it is, record error. The following record was not entered into your SharePoint site, the car rental, because there was that NA. So if we go to our SharePoint site, I'll refresh. There the other ones are, but yeah, right, the car rental didn't get entered in. Okay, and if you expand this, you can see, you can expand this, and that executed. Now, because it's looking at the one of 4 worked, 2 of 4 worked, and there we go, the 3rd of 4, red exclamation mark, that one failed. So you can go through and execute this to see which one executed. Okay, so that is how we handle, I'm going to come back here, this is how we handle an error checking or error handling just for the one record. Now let's handle scope. So to do that, let's again copy this last one we just finished doing, chapter 3 error handling. Come over here, save as, we'll rename it chapter 3 error handling with scope, like that. Save it, turn it on, go into edit mode. Okay, so this one is really not that much difficult. What we need to do is before the current apply to each, so this little plus sign here, we need to add the scope in. So go to the plus sign, add an action, and just type in scope. You should get your scope control. And now you got your scope control. You can drag the apply to each within here. So just pick it up and drop it in there. Come on, there we go. Okay, now in this apply to each, we don't need that email in here anymore. So I think we can, I don't know if it'll let us drag it out. We can try, no it won't. So yeah, you're gonna have to delete that email. That's within the apply to each. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it do its business here, any action, in this case it's just a 1, and we're gonna add a new step outside the scope. So now, again, send an email, and the same thing, send it to the same address. And again, the record not inserted into SharePoint. A record from your array was not inserted into your SharePoint list. Okay, now this time, however, we can't put that current item in here because that's within a scope. So remember, we couldn't drag out that email. We were getting an error message because that is tied to that this section here, this expense array. So it won't let us do that. So we can't actually put that particular dynamic content in here. But the rest is fine. Well, all we need to do now is what we did in the last step, where we hit the ... over here and configure to run after. And you see the default is scope succeeded, which is no, we want it on the fail. So if the scope fails in any action within the scope, then this is triggered. Okay, so when you say done to this, that's your red line there indicating that, you know, it's dependent. This is dependent upon that. All right, that's all we need to do. Let's save this and give it a whirl. Looks good, got a green to go, perfect. We'll test it manually. Test. Connected well, perfect. Run the flow. Done. It's running. There, okay, so you can see something failed in there, but we did hear my email, so we got an email here. Sure it is. There it is, record not inserted into SharePoint. So we got the email because there was a failure back over here. And again, if you expand your scope, apply to each, and again, you go through here, you can see 1 of record, 1 of 4 worked, 2 of 4 worked, the 3 of 4 is where it failed. Okay, but at least we got notification. And remember, those notifications were, you know, doing it on our student accounts, but that's where you would send an email actually to the user's email to say, hey, the form you just submitted didn't work, please try again, or something like that. Okay, so that's all we have to say for that topic. We'll see you in the next topic where we actually talk about and execute some approvals. See you on the other side.